I'm your host, Erin Martin, and this episode is brought to you by NetCertive. Today, our guest is Lindsay Ellis, a marketing and leadership consultant for many multi-location and franchise brands. Lindsay, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Erin.
And just to kick it off, could you give our listeners a little background on you and your experience in the multi-location and franchise brand space?
Sure. I started my career in marketing with a home builder who had multiple locations across Arizona and Texas. It was really my first kind of introduction into the real estate industry, into multi-location, and actually my first introduction into marketing. And that's how I realized it's really great to be able to not just market one location, to have multiple. When you market multiple locations, every day is a different challenge and every day is busy and fun. So yeah. I started there, ended up working for an education company that was national. I've been with Rebath, who is a franchise brand that has over 100 locations. And now I help a couple different companies, a painting and roofing company, another real estate company, an RV company that have multi-locations as well. So most of in fact, I would say probably all of my career has been spent with companies that have multiple locations doing marketing for them. And then as far as I got into consulting after working for a company that was an energy efficiency and solar company that had to downsize when the solar industry took a turn, and ended up having people reach out and ask for some help with marketing and help with leadership. And in that time, I just ended up launching my own business because I can now help multiple companies, which is really fun. And leadership came with I've been a leader for a long time. I've helped to really mentor a lot of people under me on my teams, which I love. I have a passion for that. I actually wrote a book on that, so.
What is the book name?
It's called Beyond the Ordinary Leader, the No Suck Leadership Manifesto.
Ooh, I love the subtitle. That's awesome. Can you give us a quick overview of the book?
Yeah, I'm going to show you the book. This is the book. And really, it's when I found myself laid off for a few months, I was like, I have a lot of things to talk about. I've been working with people for so long and with leaders for so long, and I watched all of these people posting things on LinkedIn and scratching my head going, this is so counter to good leadership and to developing, you should want to develop yourself as a leader, but your greatest accomplishment is to develop the people under you and have them move up. So I just all of a sudden started writing this book, and I took it from a different angle, which was it's not your same old book about motivation and team building and all of that's in there. But it's how to not suck as a leader, how to be that leader that not only cultivates your career and takes care of yourself. There's a big portion of self-care, but also takes care of the people under you and helps to cultivate their careers. So a little bit different than just motivation. It's the other direction on here's what you should do, but here's what you should not do too. In fact, there's a whole chapter dedicated to funny stories of different, probably counterproductive, we'll call them, issues that I've run into and seen.
Love that list of not only what's important to do, I think that's often where people's brains go, as opposed to what to stop, which there's so many things when you get to the leadership level that could either be bad habits or something that you learned and need to unlearn now that you're at a different level. I think of the Harvard Business Review article often called The Monkey on the Back, which I'm probably going to botch the summary, but it's that concept of you give a project to an employee, and instead of running with it or being proactive, they'll put it back on you because they have asked questions, and you are now the blocker to their success of the project. So how to take the monkey off your back and back to the employee's realm, not just from unsticking it, but giving that guidance so they don't just put all this work back on you and your to-do list gets huge because there's these projects that you're quote unquote blocking from employees doing.
Oh, absolutely. So, I think I'm gonna have to read that. I think too, everybody runs around so busy. We are all so busy that nobody takes the time to step back and do that self-introspection. If there's something going wrong in your department, just like if there's something going wrong in your life, you can't just be like, it's not because of me, it's because of these external factors. Sometimes, especially if you're a leader, it's coming from you. And there is things like that where you're blocking the creativity and you're not mentoring and you're not helping to get people to the next level, which helps you. You're not putting the work in to help you. I think that's really important to know. As we're all busy in this world, we're parents, we're employees, we're leaders, it's take a step back and look at yourself and what's happening.
Which often, especially when you're a small marketing team, scrappy, you end up in a player coach situation.
Right.
where you need to be coaching more than you're just playing, but you end up just working on the business is important as opposed to working on the business. Or wait, did I flip that right?
No, you got that. It's just, you know, if it's going to be done right, I'm going to do it myself. So I'm going to do it all because that's the easiest, the path to least resistance, which turns into the path to the most resistance at the end, because then you're doing everything and you don't have time.
Yes. What other kind of observations do you have over the years of something that makes a great leader in terms of the need to do versus stop?
I brought this up, how I have a chapter in here about self-care. It is really important to realize as a leader that, and as anything, a parent, you can't pour from an empty cup. Either can your team. So as we're in this world of there's so many things going on and we're multitasking, it's important to take a step back and think about that work-life balance, not just for yourself, but for your team. There's so many people that have gone away from how important PTO is and how important it is when your employee tells you that they're going to be out of town to not contact them unless like the building is burning down, because people need to recharge. And in order to be productive, you can't have people that are working around the clock. I worked for a company that had decided they were going to bring in lunch every day so nobody would take a lunch break. And they would come in and slap people 5 if they worked when they were sick, if they worked until 2 o'clock in the morning. And here you've got all these people that are unhappy and wanting to leave, and at home, their home life isn't going so well because they're not seeing their significant others. It's important to realize that nobody can pour from an empty cup. You need to have that time away. We're at work more than any place else. So it's taking that step back and being able to decompress and be with your family and take time off. And that goes for the leaders too. They need to take time off too. If you're a leader, you need to not be working around the clock, on call all the time. You need to take the time. It's so important. And not many people do that, and not many people, the more and more, the busier we get in this world, the busier we get at work, people forget about that.
You can't pour from an empty cup. That's so true. I love that statement. And it reminds me of Google. That's what Google does, build these epic campuses with free food, free dog walking, free daycare. Everything you would need is on their campus.
Oh, you never have to leave.
Guess what? You get productive employees.
Right.
Yes. Looking at the brands that you're working on, what big initiatives do you guys have going on this year?
With a lot of the brands that I'm working for, when I switched over to being in business on my own, I started with some smaller companies. So a lot of them are more in that startup-y phase, or the phase where they've been doing kind of the same thing for a while and now they're in a growth phase. I'll take, for instance, I'm working for a company that has multiple communities across the Midwest. And when I started, they didn't have much marketing in place. They had a website, they had a flyer here and there, not really consistent. Now we're in this growth mode of going from, when I started, we had 8 communities. We now have 11. We're going to have 20 by the end of the year. And that being said, the name of the game right now is simplify and automate. So everything has been so manual. So if there's a home listing, we have 50 homes that need to be listed. They're being listed one by one manually on each of the listing websites. You can imagine the time that it takes to do that. And you can imagine the manpower to have to keep auditing and making sure that everything is up to date. So the big initiatives right now I'm working on with them is automating. We just launched our first integrated API with our CRM system, meaning that all of our inventory in real time will go to our website. And then we're working on that with all of the listing sites too. So it's automating that. It's bringing in additional technology to do nurturing campaigns. So important. I think people don't realize how valuable it is to those leads that you get. They're so valuable, right? You want to make sure that you're nurturing them. Just because when they first come into you, they're not ready to buy, doesn't mean 6 months down the road that they're not going to be. And if you are not putting good content in front of them, they're going to go somewhere else, because they're not going to think about you first. So we're working on nurturing campaigns, bringing on software for automating those campaigns, working on a chat bot, because obviously when you are in a service industry, a lot of times people will call you after hours when they're off of work. So making sure that when you don't have people working, especially with these smaller companies that don't have like call centers, that you have something to answer their questions. Working on getting a really good chat bot. And I know you networks in the technology industry, you know all about this, but I am I hear from people all the time, AI is taking over the world, and I don't think we're ready for that, for sure. But I have seen some of these new software systems with chatbots and AI that do really well. We've come really far with being able to train these chatbots. So it's bringing on automation and chatbots so we can really support that sales life cycle and lead life cycle.
Yeah, and the way I've been thinking about AI recently, which I'm curious your thoughts on this hot take of it, is it's just making existing solutions, tools, systems better. So using AI in data analysis enhances your data analysis. Using AI in automations enhances and can help automations or the communication of a chatbot. So there's all this proliferation of AI tools and stuff everywhere, but almost at the end of the day, it's still working on the foundations and starting with the core problem that you have. And then as part of that, AI may be a piece of the solution to help analyze, automate, create, whatever it is. But it's a piece of the puzzle now, not the tool.
I agree. I think I could not actually, I think you're 100% right. It's so great. It enhances what you're doing. I think about it from a content standpoint. When I talk about, or when I think about writing content, sometimes I'm like, gosh, what do I want to do for social? And I put an idea down and then throw it into ChatGPT and be like, what do you think about this? Or can you wordsmith this? So I think it's a great enhancement that can help you with things. It can help with editing things like content. It can help once you're looking at analytics and you're making some assumptions and you're looking at trends and things like that, and you throw it into one of the AIs and say, hey, you know what, I'm looking at this is what I see, do you see anything else? It can really help with that. I think there is a danger in this it's taking over the world, and you can find out if you have a disease from it. You can find out things that it's a little bit too dangerous, like at this point, to do. It's not. The fallacy here is when people decide that it's everything and you can just rely on it 100%. And I think I've told you this when you and I were talking a couple weeks ago. I have a friend who received an AI written letter from her insurance company. And the AI written letter said that we overpaid you $234,000. We're going to need you to pay us back $6 million in the next 45 years. This is from, and I won't say the name, a very reputable, one of the largest insurance companies. And we're all going, it's a scam. Don't listen to it, throw it away. It's a scam, obviously. And she actually went into her dashboard, into her login, and it was there. So it had been written by the company. She ended up calling them, and they're like, oh yeah, we use AI sometimes. And so number one, that shouldn't have been sent to her. It should have been sent to the provider. But number two, where are those numbers? We overpaid you $234,000. You owe us $6 million. So I think that's where people fall into this trap of, I'm just going to throw it into AI and I'm going to hope that I'm going to just trust that AI is going to do it for me. And then you don't look at it.
That is misplaced trust.
Exactly. So like you said, it's an enhancement. I think it's great. I'm excited to see where we go with it. But I don't think we're ever going to be to a point, at least I'm not, where I'm going to put my 100% trust in an AI to do everything for me without going and proofreading and looking at what it's telling me and done.
Yeah, 100%. It's not worth losing the trust. Like that specific experience, you have lost some major trust with that friend now. Like she will never trust communications from that company again.
Exactly. Yeah. And that gives her a whole lot more work every time she goes to the doctor and sees a bill or one of the explanations of benefits to be like, is this right, or do I owe this company millions of dollars? So I think that's it. It is a trust issue after that.
Yeah. And one thing you mentioned earlier too was the automation of campaigns and working on that. So curious to expand on that and what that means and looks like for you guys.
So we started just like piecemeal putting email blasts together and using a system where we can automate a little bit based on forms. So if somebody fills out a form on our website, we can then send them a series of emails. But it's not to the point where we have it integrated with our CRM. So the goal is that I laid out a plan that basically says we have different comm paths. So here, if a lead comes in and they don't convert to a tour, they're then going to get, let's say, a series of 6 emails over the next month. If a lead comes in, we convert them to a tour, and then they don't purchase. We're then going to give them a different series of emails over the next, let's say, 4 or 6 weeks. I've got another one that's just generally when these leads become cold and we know that they don't want to be bombarded over and over without unsubscribing, it's just giving them general knowledge about the real estate industry with like soft little pushes about the company, but making sure that we have different segments that we are in front of, giving them appropriate content and with the intent of doing something. So that first track would be the lead hasn't toured, we want them to tour. So all of this is towards getting them to tour. The second one is getting them to buy or rent. And then there's another one, which I think people don't really think about so much. And I will tell you, when I worked at Rebath, we did a really good job of this, which was whenever you're in a business and there is a delay between the time that you book a service and the time that you have that service, and there's any way that there can be a cancellation in there, you want to stay in front of your audience. And I'll relate this to like the painting and roofing company I work for, or even the company with the homes. As somebody's going through a finance package and they're waiting to get approval for finance, there's a time frame in there and they can cancel and you don't want them to. That's a lot of money. So you want to make sure that you are putting really good content in front of them, showing them testimonials, people that have used your business before, neighbors in the neighborhood, if it's for communities, why it's great to live there. So making sure that it's not only about converting somebody to a sale, but it's also about keeping them in there. So
that's a really good call out, and I think tip for being able to keep that conversion rate high and not let someone drop through the funnel and re-enter the nurture program. So I love that.
I think it's so important to do that. And I think everybody should have automation campaigns. It helps you to just solidify that life cycle. And also it gives you the data that you need. You can see, at least if you get a good system, and you should, you can see where people are clicking, where people are spending the most time, which of your emails are being opened the most. So you can see what people are interested in, and it really helps as trends change, as things change within your business, how to shape the next content, which also brings me to an important point, which is refresh your content. Don't keep it the same. I feel like every quarter marketers should be looking at their content, should be gleaning those analytics and making actionable decisions based on those analytics and refreshing it. If you have an email that does, fine, keep it similar, but change the pictures, change the wording a little bit. If you have emails that are not doing well, then scrap them and do something else based on what your analytics are telling you people are interested in. And I'm talking specifically emails, but we're also putting on texting as well. So we're going to do similar texting automation. So it'll be an email and then a text. They won't say the same thing. They'll all be a little bit different.
Nice. And I think that additional channel is huge as email starts to get even more and more spam in it. I think the inbox has gotten really crazy these days. And I don't know what you guys are seeing, but I know a lot of times we've seen a reduction in open rates and some click-through rates just because of the pure volume that people get hit with in the email channel now.
There was a stat and I can't remember it, which is not helpful, but there's so much higher of an open rate on text or a read rate on text than there is on emails these days. Because people are getting so much, you have much more of a chance of them looking at your text than you do of them looking at your email.
Yeah. And there's a lot of services, I would prefer text, and opting in is a really high value touch point then with me because I want that communication.
Absolutely.
As opposed to email, I know I can delete it later. It's not as opted in.
Also, I know that even though I'm supposed to be opted in, being a marketer, most of them have not opted you in. You're just getting spam all over the board. So
exactly.
Text, normally you've opted in to get something and it's, of interest to you.
Yeah. And how about going hyper local? You've seen it all in terms of doing it for a brand, doing it for a franchise where there's multiple stakeholders. So there's obviously a few different models there, but curious how you're taking your marketing hyper local these days.
So here's the deal. It's really important for any brand to have an overall brand, right? You want people to know you, think about you think about the Nikes of the world and the swooshes and everybody knows your brand. You want that. However, you can't always take, and in most cases, when you have that corporate brand, you can't take what you're doing for corporate to every single one of your locations because they're in different areas. We'll look at digital, for instance. Let's say, we'll bring it back to real estate. You're doing PPC. not every area has the same search volume. So Google PPC isn't going to work the same in an area that has smaller search volume than it will in a larger metropolitan area that has large search volume. Or if you have more competition, you're going to have to pay a lot more money. So it is so important. It is crucial to know not only are you located in these areas of the country or these areas of the world, but the city, the town, everything is different. And I always think about Rebath, for instance, because we would go between some of the franchises that would be like, wow, you know what, those little money clipper magazines and Valpaks do amazing for us. And other ones would be like, I've never gotten one lead from that. I've never gotten one job for that. I wouldn't spend my money on it. And those mailers are expensive. But some of them in these tiny towns did so well. That's where they got most of their business. Or these towns that were really spread apart, far away from cities, as opposed to the more populous areas. That goes the same for media. Look, you know what, we all know when you do television, it's a big, expensive buy. And you're going to do much better in the larger areas than you are in the smaller metropolitan areas. So it is so important to look at those areas. It is invaluable to know where you're marketing and who your target audience is. And I bet in most companies, unless you're very pigeonholed into one product that, you know, is for everybody, then you probably have different target markets in different areas. There's little tweaks on the age, there's tweaks on the value of, let's say you're doing the home service of their home, on the income level. So it is really important to put that research in the beginning and figure out what works in each area as opposed to blanketing it.
And how do you manage that entire process then, from gathering that information to then deploying the right marketing at that local level?
I think you need to have, depending on how many locations you have, you need to have the right staff, because it becomes a capacity issue for sure. And I think it depends, again, like I said, so I work for a company that had RV parks and campgrounds and manufactured home communities, and there was 400 of them. And we were broken up basically into, so I was over the entire country for doing their marketing, but I had teams under me that would go regionally to each of the properties. So I had people that were Northwest, Southeast, so on and so forth. So it's having, number one, it's doing the work to begin with. So whether you hire a company that does the market research for you, or you go in and take the time, if you have the time, and look at historicals and look at your current data and talk to, here's a big thing, talk to the people on your front lines. I get from a corporate level, there are so many companies that have these regional or these corporate offices, and they're making decisions from the top, and they're never talking to their people that are in the field. Your people in the field know what's going on. They're talking to your customers. They're living in those areas. So it's putting that work in first, whether you're doing it and then notating it and letting people know, or having a market research firm do it, and again, communicating out, having good files on what your target market is. I'm really big in building personas. You should have personas for each of those markets. Name them, make a poster of who they are if it's your market, and then managing from there, and having good systems, making sure that you have a system that no matter what you do, you're tracking it. So if you're using like a Valpak or a Money Mag, you have a QR code and you have a promo code on it, and you're able to very easily pull reports. Everything should go back to one source of truth, and it should be your CRM, and everything should be tied to that. So if you have 400 properties, you're not pulling one report from every property. You very easily, at the touch of a button, can pull one large report and start to make decisions.
Yeah, one of my favorite case studies of that localization and getting feedback from the local market on how to tweak the approach is of Barnes and Noble. They were the exact situation of the publishing company in New York calling the shots of what inventory was going to be put out to all of the Barnes and Noble locations, which was the same across the board. And I forget what year it was, but they switched and got local feedback on what to highlight, what authors to put in, local authors, and really tailor it to the local market. And they are here with us today, as many retailers are not.
And especially book retailers, right?
Yes.
They may be the only one. And it's so true. You can't make decisions from up here. You have to know that your brand is up here at the top, and you always want everything branded, but your locations are not. So you need to know what works in each of your locations.
Yeah, exactly. And what else is working for you guys on the digital marketing front right now?
Digital marketing, to me, Google paid, I should say, not always works. Google paid, I think, is important to do PPC. I think everybody should have an always on digital strategy that has some search in there. But I do think that it's important to know what your market is and to know what your competition is. But I do think that everybody should have search in there because you need keyword. You need people to find you through typing in keywords, right? You can't just have your website. The other thing that I think is so important is SEO. I don't know that everybody knows the value of SEO, and I think that's because a lot of people, it frames them and it scares them to talk about it. And you don't have to be an SEO expert. Look, I am not an SEO expert. I cannot run somebody's SEO. I know what goes into SEO, and I know like how you're ranked and all of that. But if you don't have SEO going from a good, reputable company that's helping you, you are losing out on your rankings for your business, and you're not sending people to your website. You can have the best, beautiful, easiest to maneuver website out there, but people aren't going to find it. So you need to be doing SEO. And then reputation. Reputation is so huge. So if you've got a company that has multiple locations, you have multiple reviews, and they're not always going to be good. And so having your finger on the pulse of that reputation is really important. There are plenty of software companies that help with that. They track your reviews, they let you send out reviews, they have leaderboards for the different areas in the company, they allow you to do surveys, but always having your finger on the pulse of that, because reputation can either make you or break you.
Yeah, and that's such a big social proof and validation piece of the customer journey. And I think the biggest thing that I see where marketers miss or brands miss is not using those positive reviews in other pieces of their materials. So making sure that it's highlighted on location page or your page, all the awesome testimonials they have, or specific to a product or service, having someone's experience specific to that product or service right below featuring it or that page. So getting beyond just the standard, I think the biggest thing I see is you can have just the dynamic insertion of positive reviews on a page, but you can go one step further and post more of those testimonials and social cred that's related to every single product and service. And then the other thing I see too is not responding to positive reviews.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people that are on top of negative, but Google loves the engagement on negative and positive. So doing both is huge.
Absolutely. And that's where I say you have companies that can help you. You can do it yourself if you're smaller and your budget is smaller, but respond to every single review. You can get software that helps you to do that. You can get companies that'll do it for you, but you're absolutely right. And as far as you should have them on your website, it's just a widget, right? In most cases, where it's bringing those reviews onto your website and not just reviews that you've put on there and you haven't changed. You want up-to-date reviews so that they're coming onto your website from that widget and updating. That's really important. And then I am really big on testimonials. Look, you know what? If you're let's look at a home service company. Somebody's gonna come into your home. You wanna trust them. That is the biggest thing. Years ago, there wasn't the Yelps and the Googles and all of that. And it has become so big that people are looking at reviews. You are more inclined to trust your next door neighbor who had, let's say, their kitchen renovated and use their contractor than you are to just randomly pick somebody off of the web, right? So it's all about trust. So going a step further with having video testimonials and having not just the words mean something, and it's huge to have people that are giving you 5-star reviews and are typing these great paragraphs that talk about your service, but actually go a step further and shoot a testimonial. You can do it with a phone. It doesn't have to be huge and produced and expensive. A phone is very genuine. People like genuine. So I look at, there's a couple of great brands. There's a brand in Arizona, A1 Garage. They do a great job of it. When they're done their service, whoever is there takes a cell phone video, and they have the people at the end say like A1 from day one or whatever their tagline is, talk about the process, talk about how their experience was. They post these on their web. They put these on emails. They put these on their social. And they've got people singing their praises. I've seen them go to trade shows and people will come up and sing their tagline to them and do testimonials right there. So it should be all that social proof. Good reviews, bad reviews, respond to them, you're going to get them. and testimonials, and know that for every bad review, you get 2 or 3 good reviews. It's pushing that bad review down.
Yes, exactly. Awesome. I know we're coming up on time, but I do love to ask people if there's anything that you wish I would have asked that I didn't cover.
I don't think so. I think we talked about a lot between digital and leadership. We've talked about quite a bit. This has been really fun.
Love it. Thank you so much for coming on, Lindsay. It's so great to hear all your tips and tricks after being in the space for so long and the experience under your belt. And thanks to everyone who listened in to another episode of The Art of Franchise Marketing.
Thanks, Erin.
Awesome. So good. Good work.
That was so much.
Hello, and